Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Okay, Friday night, it's Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of guys hanging out, sipping on some whiskey, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. Tonight's episode 34. For tonight, basically, we're going to start it off doing Name That Stadium like we always do. Then we're going to talk about the news from this past week. And then after that, we're going to do a little bit of sort of like a game of free agency matchmaker, looking at just the AFC teams tonight. Next week, we'll wrap it up talking about the NFC teams. And then we'll close it out talking about our question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going good, man. And so I was telling you, the other day or whatever that I ended up meeting one of the relatives of Jacob and Cody Hollister. And so before we do name that stadium, I just thought we'd give those guys, a quick little shout out here. It was pretty cool. This relative of theirs was telling me about how they both approached their dad when they were teenagers, and they wanted to be professional athletes. And the dad kind of explained to them, hey, it's a lot of hard work and commitment, and as you get older, you're going to kind of have to like focus on which sport, and have some trainers, and really put in the time and the effort. And they both wanted to do football, and they grabbed the bull by the horns. I did a little bit of intel on them because very familiar with Jacob Hollister as the tight end for the Seattle Seahawks, but not as familiar with Cody Hollister, which is currently a wide receiver for the Titans. But both these guys, twin brothers, signed as undrafted free agents with the Patriots in 17. I believe they both had some injury issues, but they were on the squad when they beat the Falcons that year, and so they both ended up getting Super Bowl rings, and so it's pretty cool stuff. So anytime you kind of, whether it's directly or through a connection, meet one of these guys, I just think it's pretty fun to point out.
Oh no, definitely. Well, half the people I meet I can't talk about, so but
Sworn to secrecy.
yeah, but well, that's because it's all job related and shit. But
Yep.
no, it's definitely pretty cool to meet meet people, then just have conversations with them about how they got to like where they are and shit like that.
Oh, definitely, man, definitely. Well, hey, so let's just kick it over to name that stadium. So for anybody watching, this is basically the part of the show where, as you can see, James is traveling around the country. Every week he throws a different stadium in his background, and if you think you know what stadium that is, we're asking you put your answer in our comments section, and if you get it right, you'll get a special shout out in next week's show. And so tonight, James, I see what you got going on there, but where were you at last week? Do you remember?
Last week I was in Carolina. I was at Bank of America Field or Stadium or whatever the hell they call it down there. Bank of America something.
Okay.
Um, I kind of it was when I sit down and look at Carolina, I think they're going to be the most aggressive at trying to get Watson. They're just going to keep throwing shit and throwing shit into the deal and see what Houston agrees to, and so that's what kind of why I picked Carolina.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Well, hey, that answered my question before I even asked it on what your motivation was. So thank you for just taking the ball and running with it there. All right. So moving on, let's do our recap of this past week. And so there was a lot of NFL news this past week, and it's that time of year where sometimes it's hit and miss, but we're coming up on free agency, and so you got a lot of guys either signing contracts or getting cut or, whatever the case may be. But the first thing I wanted to touch on was a story about Amazon. Looks like they're going to have some exclusive games on Amazon Prime this year. It's one of these things where I think it's good for them. Uh, Unfortunately, I think it's a little bit bad for us as like the fans because unless you have Amazon Prime, that's now a game that you're not going to be able to watch, which is kind of a bummer. Luckily for me, I have Amazon Prime. I just, these streaming wars, man, it just, I think it's bad for the end user. Like you either got to have them all, or you're going to be sacrificing which games can you watch each week.
Yeah, well, like not only like streaming is it's getting absurd how much shit's going over to strictly streaming. Like I hadn't heard that Amazon Prime was going to have exclusive games. I heard that they were going to
Yeah.
have the like exclusive streaming rights, but it wasn't going to be.
Oh, okay. Maybe I misunderstood it then, but yeah, that would change it quite a bit. When I first read it, I was like, "Oh man, no, don't tell me that." But okay, so you're saying the game would still be aired on TV, they would just have the exclusive streaming for whatever game.
Right, exactly. Like
Ah,
like right now, like in like Yahoo or last this past season, like you could watch games in like the Yahoo app or the NFL app, the local games. I
mm-hmm.
think it's going to be. I had heard that I hadn't heard that it was going to be only streaming on the games, but I mean that it wouldn't surprise me if they went over to that. Like how many channels are or like going over to well, we're going to have this show like the shows that we watch here that like now they're only on the app that you have to subscribe to. They're no
Yeah.
longer over the air. Like the channel is still on TV, but they're only that content is only available on the app, and it's like what the fuck? Like I can't use the app on my damn TV, so then I have to watch it on my phone.
Well, I guess it depends on the app, right? So like some of the smart TVs, or if you had like a Roku streaming stick, you might be able to get the app on there, and then, it ends up streaming through the TV. But yeah, they're making all of us jump through some hoops, and the technology's cool, but yeah, technology, it's like a double-edged sword. It can be good, it can be bad, and
Hmm.
uh, I'll have to go back and look at that Amazon thing now because maybe I jumped the gun here, and it's not as bad as I thought initially, which hopefully it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully it doesn't go that way. And then like also like coming up pretty soon, you're gonna have whatchamacallit, the the Sunday ticket package is going to be open up for bidding, so it's probably not going to be exclusively on DirecTV anymore.
Oh yeah, I did hear a little bit about that. Yeah, and you had that, right? Or you do have that.
Yeah, I have it, but it's going to be. I'm trying to remember when it's up. I think it's like negotiated next year is possibly.
Okay.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, and so basically from here, I just got a lot of news on guys moving around and things changing in the league, and I know I'm not going to catch all of them in my list, but whenever you're ready, I'll just kind of, in no particular order, start firing them off, and we'll talk a little bit about each guy as we go.
I'll be ready in a sec. Yeah, it's after 2022 season.
Okay, so 2 more years of football, and then it opens up.
Yeah. So, but the Amazon thing, that's I hope they don't go over to.
Exclusive period.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's exclusive streaming, that's not as bad. But if it's exclusive, yeah, and maybe that was it. I just saw the word exclusive and just was like, tractor beam on it. Like, no, don't tell me that.
Holy shit.
It is
Amazon
exclusive,
wants to be the exclusive Thursday night broadcaster.
but they didn't get it. They're just saying they want to be.
Yeah. NFL could move most Thursday night games exclusively to Prime.
Yeah, see, I don't know, man. I think that to me is bad for business, but
Yeah, Amazon, you're right. It is. Amazon's in talks to carry many NFL games exclusively.
eh, that's a shame. It just hurts the end user. But all right, that's the way of the world. It's all about money. Somebody's making a buck.
Yeah, shit. It looks like that for Thursday night games, they're just Thursday night games. They're going to get more than $1 billion from Amazon. So per season.
Yeah, yeah, big time, man, big time.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
I
Now
mean, I
I'm
got to
ready.
remember it is a business, but yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of these players that hit the news this week. And like I said, it's in no particular order. But the first one, bummed me out. Looks like Alex Smith won't be returning to Washington. I'm just wondering now, does he play football in 2021? And if so, does he start somewhere at quarterback? We know that there's teams out there still looking for quarterbacks. It just seemed to me like Washington was the spot for him. And if it's not there, I don't know. Would Chicago maybe give him a look if they can't find somebody else? Or, what do you think, man?
Well, I'm bummed that he was cut, but from what I'm hearing, he wanted to be cut. Like he was feeling, or the team was giving him indications that he wasn't in their plans to be the starter coming up this next season.
Yeah.
And he went to the team and said, why don't we work something out? Why don't you release me? Let me become a free agent and sign where I want. I think there's a couple teams that could go after him.
And that's just the thing that I guess bums me out is that it's like, geez, man, he had such a great run. Once he
Hmm.
got healthy and played, they were winning games. Why wouldn't you want to keep that going and see if he can keep working that magic? And I don't know, man. It's like I want to see him end up somewhere good, and what is it? Is he maybe the answer in New England for a year or two while they figure out their deal? Or I don't think Chicago would be it, but I guess he has the connection with Nagy from Kansas City. And so, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I guess we'll see what his market is.
Yeah, and I I have some idea. We'll get to that when we get to the free agency
Okay.
um, stuff. That there's actually a couple teams that we're going to talk about tonight that I think could take a run at signing them. Um, I think I think it's just Washington. It wasn't enough. I thought for some reason they were over the cap number, but apparently they're they were way under it. So I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of a cost saving move. So I don't know. It does bum me out that they couldn't keep him. I think like I mean heck I think they could have possibly have even traded him if they didn't release him
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
something back for him. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It is what it is at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lead, it's a business first and foremost.
Yep. Yeah. We're probably going to be saying that a lot tonight.
Hmm.
So next up, I got J.J. Watt, as I know you are aware, signed with the Arizona Cardinals, 2-year, $31 million deal. Reunited with DeAndre Hopkins. Sounds like he kind of recruited him a little bit. Um, I think some people were surprised by this, and I think it's a good move. He's going to a team that's on the rise. I'm just hoping that they hang on to Chandler Jones because I think the combination of those two guys would really, like, totally boost that defense. And you know, the contract for this stage of his career, I thought he did pretty good, man. 15.5 million a year. That's solid for a guy that's, on the back phase of the career. But he's a game changer, and so it's let's see how it plays out there. But it's I think it was a good spot. What'd you think?
So earlier this week, I heard what's his name, Steve Klein, whatever, the GM for Arizona. He was on one of the shows, one of the sports talk shows I listened to, and he was pretty psyched about having Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt on the field at the same time.
Nice.
And and I actually love how this defense is going to set up. Like they get like a couple pieces in the secondary on this defense, and I like this could be like the best passing defense the league's seen in a long time. You have Chandler Jones, who since he was drafted in 2012 has the most sacks at 97. You have J.J. Watt, who since 2012 is number two in the league at 95 and a half. I mean, it's just absurd how much pressure that defense is going to be able to get on the quarterback.
Oh yeah, and you know that changes everything. It takes a lot of pressure off your secondary. Uh, you know, I mean, just look at what happened in the Super Bowl, man. Nobody was expecting, the Buccaneers to put that kind of pressure on the Chiefs, and it just totally messed up what was otherwise a super electric offense. And so yeah, I'm a huge fan of beefing up that defensive line.
Yeah, and how many times like you go through Arizona's games, they had I think it was 3 games they lost by 3 points, and I think 5 they lost by one score.
Yeah,
Like I mean, right there, you win a couple of those games, you get that defensive stop, you're a playoff team automatically.
yeah. This definitely gives them a big boost. Okay, so next up, I got Kyle Rudolph, released by the Vikings. We pretty much called this at the end of the year when Irv Smith and Tyler Conklin looked like they were a pretty productive tandem. And,
Hmm.
it's just one of these things where, I don't think it was all that long ago that they signed him to an extension. And so I think that's where there was a little bit of surprise. But, the dude's had a solid 10-year career, and I'm sure he's still got some stuff left in the tank. So, he's one of these guys that we'll see where he ends up. I know there's some tight end needy teams. Like Jacksonville's one of them. Carolina's another one of them, and he's going to have some options, I think.
Yeah, he'll definitely have some options. I was gonna look up. I meant to earlier today look up when they had signed him
Okay.
because I think you're right. I think it was not too long ago that they had signed him. But I'm also hearing with Minnesota that they're probably going to cut Thielen as well.
Ooh, man, he's like a hometown hero in Minnesota, man. Oh,
Yeah. So he signed the contract in 2019. It was a 4-year, $36 million contract.
yeah. So he got 2 years on it. Uh, you know, yeah. For somebody that's just been a huge part of that team, I don't know. But there's a lot of changes in Minnesota. They're not getting it done and they're having cap issues, and so they got to make some things. They got to make it work. They got to get the two ends to come together.
Yeah, exactly. And I it just some of these players getting caught like this week, I pretty much called it with Golden Tate last week. Like I
Yep,
was like,
yep.
Giants are definitely cutting him. I mean, and 2 days later, 3 days later, what happens? They cut his ass.
See you later.
Um, so it just sucks to see some of these players and how bad this um the the
The
salary
the,
cap
the
is
COVID cap hit, yeah.
yeah. It's like it's like GMs anonymously, for like various reporters have been talking about how GMs are telling them that you're going to see have been referring to it as like a massacre that's going to happen by March 17th,
Yep,
like
yep.
ground ground shaking cuts.
Yeah, and that's where it's crazy with we talked last week, DeMaurice Smith telling all the agents to collude with each other. It's like I don't know how you think that that's really going to help because the teams can only do so much when they're hamstrung by the cap. And so,
Hmm.
somebody's gonna take a hit. It's coming from somewhere. Okay, so the next guy I got on the list, I'm a little conflicted about this guy, but Kyle Van Noy, it's been announced he's being released by the Dolphins after just one season, and he signed a pretty big contract with them. Here's the thing with this one. I'm not a huge fan of Van Noy because obviously, the Lions drafted the guy, second round pick, I believe, and he never really did anything in Detroit. But then we trade him to the Patriots, and he ends up being like, a solid starting guy. And now he goes to Miami, and they got him on a big contract. He was a team captain. The thing that gets me is they're not hurting for cap space. And so, like, unless they're like teeing up to go after Watson, which we know that there was like some rumors about them, how serious they were, who knows? It just seems to me like what gives with this, man? Everybody looked up to this guy as a leader on the team. You would think with the way that you've like drastically turned it around and changed the culture there, you would have wanted to hang on to him. And so I don't know, is it a matter of he just underperformed compared to some of the other linebackers on that team, or like I said, this one just confuses me because he did get a big deal just last year and team captain, all that kind of stuff. It just seems strange that they would have made the move already.
Yeah, well, it it confused the hell out of me too. I didn't understand because they had a decent amount of space available, but
Yep.
I mean they do to get Watson in there and to be able to go after some free agents to do anything. I mean they have to start bolstering, like maybe not this year or like this coming year's cap, but like the few like couple years down the road when Watson's new contract kicks in.
Yeah. 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 So hey, maybe they're getting their ducks in a row just in case they think they got a chance.
Yeah, but down the line, the cap's going to go up. Like this new deal that the NFL is going to be signing for TV rights. These new deals, from what I'm hearing, it's going to double the TV rights deal, the last TV rights deals that were signed.
Oh wow, yeah, that'd be huge, man. You're talking big boost if that happens.
Yeah, so it's looking like it's gonna be pretty damn big, better a pretty damn good jump to bolster the cap.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so then next up I got Malcolm Brown, the defensive tackle for the Saints. I don't think anything's happened with him yet, but they're talking about trying to trade him. And I just bring him up because, he's been a solid defensive tackle. We know that this team needs to create some cap space. If they were able to trade him, I heard they could save about 5 million. This is just one of these blocks that's got to fall in a potential blow up for this team because they're just so far away from getting under the cap. And I don't know, dude. Like I thought about the Saints, and it seems to me like there's really no good answer for them getting under the cap and being competitive this year. I think they're going to have to make way too many changes. And maybe I'm wrong, I mean, crazier things have happened, but I kind of thought, is it time that they start selling a bunch of pieces and loading up on draft picks for next year? And then it's like that's where their cap is now cleared up. They can land a bunch of young talent and like sort of like lift it off again and hopefully get their next quarterback. And it's almost like maybe this year just has to be a wash for them because they're just too far off.
Yeah, so goddamn page won't load, but uh, to look at, I wanted to look at their cap and how much it would save for cutting them, but then you said it. But I'm hearing some some interesting things about what could be going down in New Orleans with their cap and their quarterback situation. First of all, when is Drew Brees gonna retire? Is a
Yeah,
question.
and there was the leak of him working out and people like, oh man, maybe he thinks he's coming back for one more.
No, it wasn't a leak. He posted that to social media. So it's like, what the
Yeah,
fuck? Is he coming
yeah.
back? Does he think he can still play? Um, but like I'm hearing stuff like possibly like packaging like Cam Jordan and what's the offensive lineman's name? I can't remember his
Oh, they got
it's
Teron Armstead, they got Ramchek, they got
Ramczak. Like packaging Cam Jordan, Ramczak, and their first round pick and sending that to Seattle for Russ.
oh man, that would be pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, which with Russ, like, I mean, it's pretty crazy what's been coming out this week with Russ. It's like what was it? Uh, I forget her name. She's ESPN or NFL. I forget. She's an NFL analyst for one of the networks, and she was talking about how not only has Seattle been receiving calls on Russ,
Yeah.
but they've been making calls.
Ooh. Yeah, so they're it's getting real is what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like I was saying that he'd make it through this year in Seattle, and then they trade him next year. I don't know if by the draft you could see him moved. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, and we talk about this team all the time. It just seems to me like if a name like Russ is available, the Patriots with all their new cap space should be all over a move
Hmm.
there. And, I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe stuff's happening behind the scenes. But they went from basically being in salary cap hell last year to they're just being chuck full of cap space. Like if you were going to make a big move, and New England normally doesn't make big moves like that, but if you were going to do it, he's a guy that it's worth doing it for.
Hmm. Exactly.
All right, so the next guy I had on my list is Trent Brown, offensive tackle for the Raiders. He's rock solid offensive lineman, but he's also very high priced, and the Raiders need to clear up some cap space. I'm not a huge fan of them, making the moves from the offensive line because, they got a good young running back, and I think that offensive line's done that team wonders offensively. But I'm sure they can find a trade partner. He's a top tier kind of tackle, and there's always teams looking for tackles. So, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
Well, with him, like there's a couple problems I have. This is first of all, you have to be available, and he's seems to be always hurt.
Well,
Like
wasn't he one of the guys that got the COVID?
yeah, he got
Like
COVID, and
I don't
then
know, I
I
don't know
don't
if he
think he
actually
played a
got
full.
COVID, but he was on the list like 2 or 3 times or something.
Yeah, I don't. I honestly, I don't think he's played a full season since he's been there,
Okay.
and he's got. I'm trying to look up his his salary. Like I think
It's
like
a
I
big
mean
one. I know that.
yeah
I don't know the
he's
number, but I know it's big.
yeah he's got this big salary that's it's let me see turn around 14 million. Right, he's the second highest cap hit on the team,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. And then he never plays.
So you're saying get him out of there. So where's he
Yeah,
go?
like that offensive line had issues anyway last year. So
Yeah, they just it was the COVID thing, man. They had too many guys getting exposed, and it was just like a revolving door for them.
mhm. All right, okay, he's played two full seasons. Two full seasons. He 2000, none of them with Oakland or with the Raiders. Like 2019 and 20 are the 2 years he was with the Raiders. He played 11 games in 19 and 5 games in 2020.
Yeah. No, yeah, for that much money, yeah, like you said, you got to be available. I know when he plays, he's top, man. He's top tier.
Mhm.
It just yeah, and I bring it up because you don't see guys at that level get moved often. But yeah, if he's not gonna be on the field, then they got to make the move.
Yeah, so I'm just glancing at his injury history. Okay, so they signed him to a 4-year, $66 million contract in March of 19. December of 19, placed on the IR. October of 20, COVID list. November of 20, COVID list. I'd see IR in 17 when he was with San Francisco. So yeah, he's just always hurt. I don't see how you can justify continuing to pay somebody that much money to.
Yeah, yeah, especially when you're you know tight on cap space.
Yeah, I mean they have I have them at like 8 million, 9 million in cap space, but
Yeah, but they've got a ton of work they got to do on the defense, and I think for the holes that they have, it's going to be tough with the cap. But that's a place to pull it from, and basically you're taking it out of one pocket on the offensive side, and more than likely putting it in the other pocket on the defensive side.
yeah, so like the only person that's a bigger cap hit than Trent Brown this year is Derek Carr.
Gotcha. Okay, so next up I got Jared Cook, cut by the Saints. everything I was reading is that, man, they really liked that guy and they wanted to hang on to him. But it just goes back to everything we talked about earlier. Their cap is just so messed up. You got to make moves even if you don't want to do them. And Jared Cook, he's been in the league for a little while now, but he's shown he can still play. So he'll land somewhere. He'll make some team happy, I'm sure. Make some quarterback happy. And then last but not
Yeah, well,
least,
the Saints have been making a lot of moves to kind of free up some cap space, or try to
yeah,
at least.
yeah,
Like,
it's a huge combination of moves. They're just so far off. Yeah,
yeah, like they cut Cook, they cut Morstead. Like, I mean, I, I think that's it so far. I don't know. It's hard to tell who was cut this year versus last year, but I mean, like, that only saved them like 4 million, and not 4 million. It's still costing them 4 million in dead cap. I don't
yeah,
know how much
yeah,
saved them, but it's just, they got a lot to do down there.
yeah. They're gonna be busy, man. They're gonna be busy. Okay, so the last guy I had on the list was Desmond Trufant. He was released by the Lions.
Good. Bye.
I think a lot of people were talking about it. They expected it to come, and it just puts the pressure on Okuda now. It's like, hey, man, you got to start earning that huge freaking draft slot. Uh, you know, we'll see. It makes me nervous. Trufant, he was one of those guys where he was like a risk reward kind of player. If he was healthy and he was on the field, sometimes he could make some big plays and it was cool. But like you said about the availability thing, he wasn't always available. And then sometimes he was too risky and it blew up on us. And so, and that's how he was in Atlanta before we even brought him here. And so
Hmm.
you know, it's just tough because we need pieces on that defense and we're getting rid of one because, overpriced deal. Thank you, Bob Quinn.
Yeah, that's the issue with GMs trying to manage the team out of desperation. Like,
Yep.
as much as we pay him, what was it, 11 million? I think, was it was it 11 million, 16 million? I think it was 11 million we saved from him. He played 6 fucking games last year.
Yeah, that's not good enough, man. Yeah.
He had 6 games, one interception.
Hmm.
That's does not cut it for. Let me take a look at how much we paid him. Like, we paid him. Well, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
shit. His
Yeah.
his dead cap hit is $6 million.
Yeah, no, we paid him handsomely. It's just tough for a team that needs pieces on defense. It's basically
Yeah.
just another swing and a miss, man.
So it was a 2-year, $20 million contract. Eh, it's only saving 4 million. I don't know if it was worth it to cut him, to have the 6 million dead cap hit.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're getting closer to where we can sign, or we can tag some Galladay or
Tag
Jones.
Galladay if we want, yeah. Which, you were saying it sounds like they want to go in that direction. So.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you think, man? Did I miss anything of significance that you want to hit on before we go to our free agency matchmaking?
Yeah, how Pittsburgh fucked up this week.
Oh, with Roethlisberger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned him. Yeah.
So so it's like, yeah, great. Roethlisberger restructured his contract, and took a pay cut this year, or took a pay cut down to $14 million. No team in the fucking league would have paid him $14 million a year. Like, he would have been lucky to get 10 million if Pittsburgh
He's
cut him.
he's
So what the fuck
valuable.
are they? What the
He
fuck are they talking about? That, oh yeah, good job by Ben reducing his salary.
Yeah.
Fuck
Yeah, no,
bullshit.
he's yeah, we're on opposite sides of the fence. But no, he's obviously valuable to them from the business side because he's the face of that franchise and just him being there I think gives them hope. But it's one of these things where I heard about like the optional years and that if they decline next year's option. There was something in there about they get to spread the cap hit over 4 years. Like that to me is like, when did the cap hits? I don't know. Like, if you can get that creative with pushing money out into the future, it's just like you're going to snowball all your problems until eventually they catch up to
Mhm.
you and you can't get out from under it. And that just to me, it seems like we're getting back to this deal where we need a more straightforward salary cap and system for dead cap hits and things like that because we're giving too many teams too much latitude that you can get so creative now that you can load up in 1 year and then you're just done after that. And it doesn't mean you're going to win the Super Bowl or anything. It just I don't know. To me, it just seems like some teams can abuse that and maybe have an unfair advantage here and there that I don't know. Something about it just rubs me the wrong way, man.
So actually, with his contract's really essentially a 1 year contract.
Yeah, yeah. It's got
It's
like a whole bunch of optional years. Yeah.
no, not optional years. The contract, the signing bonus prorates over 5 years. The last 4 years of the contract will automatically void after 2021. So after the season, his contract's automatically void.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, they're not optional years. They're voided years, or however you would put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's a little bit better. It,
It just seems a little shady that you can sign a deal like that and push all the money out into the future like that.
well, like look at New Orleans. New Orleans did that with Breeze too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just not digging it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I mean the hope is when those years come, the cap's going to go back up.
Yeah. And so then they got relief just from that. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems to me that they should just be taking the pain now, but whatever. There's a game to play.
Yeah. I mean, good point. It got Pittsburgh under the cap. They would be a lot further under the cap if they would have just cut him because it would have saved them 19 million, not 15
Yeah.
million.
Yeah. Yeah. They weren't prepared for that backlash with their fan base and whatever else. But yeah, I hear you. Okay, so what else? Anything else that we missed news-wise, or are you ready to move on?
I think that was it. Let me see. I got that. Yeah, I think that was the last one. It seems like every day there was something new with
Yeah, there's been a
NFL.
lot going on this week, man. Yeah, it's been a big week. Okay, well, so we'll move on here to our main part of the show for tonight, which is, like we talked about earlier, we're going to be doing some free agency matchmaking, and we're going to be looking at the AFC teams only tonight. Next week, we'll kick it over to the NFC. And so, this is one of those things where, we still have a couple of weeks before free agency kicks off. And so, some people are going to continue to get cut. Some people are going to get signed. Some people are going to get the franchise tag, and eventually maybe that goes into a bigger deal. And, there's just, I guess, I'm just posturing that there's still a lot of time for things to change. And so tonight's just our look at, what teams have what needs, and based on, the top 101 that we saw from NFL.com or whatever free agent list you want to go off of, who are some of those key names that some of these teams should be looking at to fill those holes? And so, you know, with all that out there, I guess let's just kick it off alphabetically. I got the Baltimore Ravens as the top team on the list. Uh, you know, Cap wise, they're in a pretty good spot. It always blows my mind how Baltimore is just so good at managing their team, man. And everybody's got a different list here, but I'm showing that they need a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, and somebody off the edge. And, we know that they got some guys that they might hang on to, like Matt Judon, and that would solve their edge problem. Uh, Wide receiver wise, I've been hearing that they want to go after a bigger bodied possession type guy. And maybe some of that's because Hollywood Brown was, complaining at the end of the year there about the offense and things like that. And then on the offensive line, we know they got some stuff going on there. And so, those were kind of like the needs that I saw. And I had some ideas there. What are you seeing or what are you thinking, man?
So that's what I kind of saw the same needs. I think O line. I think more interior O line than tackles. I think they're pretty set at tackles depending on what they do with uh shit.
The young guy,
Yeah. What's
that's
his name?
been wanting to be traded. And yeah, because Ronnie Stanley should be back next year, and so that's
Yeah.
I think that's why most people think they need help on the offensive line because they're expecting to lose that guy via trade or whatever it might be.
Yeah, but for what I'm seeing, basically, it's interior line they need. They need center guard,
Yeah,
because the guy we're talking about plays guard for them. What the hell is his name?
yeah, and they bumped him out to tackle when Stanley went down, right?
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, I'm a tackle. I'm a tackle. Oh, damn!
Yeah,
What
and
the hell?
so while you're looking that up, based off of these needs, my thought for them is, hey, if you want a bigger, more possession type wide receiver, whether this guy fits that bill or not, we know Chicago's talking about doing a tag and trade with Allen Robinson. Go after that guy. I can see him being a good fit for how Lamar throws the football. He wants to toss it up and have a guy go up and get it. He likes throwing to the tight ends. And Allen Robinson, he's been an aggressive receiver at going and attacking the football. And so, whether or not they want to spend that kind of money remains to be seen. Other than him, like we talked about Matt Judon, I think he's a high priority guy. If they don't franchise tag him, they definitely need to do something to, sign him to a longer term deal and retain that guy.
I think it was Orlando Brown.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, that's right. I knew as soon as you
Like
said the name, it clicked. Yep, there we go.
yeah, glancing at the list. So I agree with you on Allen Robinson. I mean, it depends if what happens with Galladay. I could see Galladay also being a possibility for going to Baltimore.
Yeah,
Uh, Outside of those two, like I don't think the big name free agents are really worthwhile and would be good. Like maybe this is a little crazy, but Godwin could get gobs of money to go there. But I would say the two big ones would be Robinson or Galladay.
yeah. I mean, Godwin. I mean, I looked at him for a lot of teams. I just don't know that he's definitely not a big possession type guy. And so, where you're saying Galladay is an alternative, I agree. I think that he fits that bill as a guy that not known for separation, but known for coming up with the football. And
Mhm.
so, I could see it being one of those two guys for sure.
Yeah, and for offensive line, I have two people that I could see going there. You have
Yeah,
Lindsey,
Corey Linsley. Yep, the
Corey
center from the
Linsley,
Packers. Yep.
and Thuney.
Oh yeah. See, I'm the more I've been thinking about him, I'm thinking that the Pats are going to re-tag him. They're going to tag him again, man, if they can't sign him because I just think he's been such an important part of that offensive line. They're not going to want to let him go. But if he is available, yeah, I think, he's a guy that if he's available, I think a lot of teams are going to be looking at him.
Yeah, exactly. And I like because you look at the other ones, and Thuney, you're probably right. New England. Actually, no, I don't think New England would tag him. I think they would try to work out the long-term deal because I think the second year tag would be too high for
Ye-
Thuney.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that they might is because they just have so much cap space, where if it came down to it, they could afford to do it if they had to. But yeah, I agree. It's not you know, the Belichick era, you don't see things like that happen. They're looking more value and things like that. And so it would be if all else fails, that kind of thing.
Wow, there's only two guards in the top 100 that.
Yeah.
are potentially free. Wow, that's crazy. Those guys.
And here's the deal. I think both those guys are franchise tag candidates, man. Brandon
Mhm.
Scherf in Washington, I think they tag him. Yeah, and I think, we're talking the same thing with the Patriots, man. I think these guys are those guards might not be open. And when you look at offensive linemen in general, there's really not that many in the top 101 this year. I think a lot of teams that have the need, they're going to be looking at the draft, man.
Yeah. You know, well, that could be that number two pick. The Jets could sell that and get gobs of shit back.
Oh,
Get
heck
like
yeah.
2000, get like 500 first round picks back for that number two pick because you got what's his face from Oregon who's supposed to be like the next
Yeah,
huge
Sewell or
guy.
however you say his name. Yeah.
Yeah, Sully or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, like he's rising up boards, and I mean with how little offensive linemen are projected to be free agents are going to be free agents this year. Shit, like I mean they could sell and sell and sell on that pick and get basically what they want for it.
Yeah. And hey, who knows what they're going to do, man? I don't have a whole lot of faith that the Jets are going to get it right, but
Mhm.
maybe they will this time around.
They got it right last year with their draft picks. Joe
Oh yeah,
Douglas seems to know
that
what he's doing with
yeah, that mountain of a
uh
man at tackle. Yeah. I
yeah,
forget his
what's his
name, but yeah,
Buck,
he
not
was
Buck,
impressive.
what the crap?
Well, here, while you're thinking about it, we'll kick it on down. The next team on the list here is the Buffalo Bills. They're a lot tighter on cap space. And, when I look at them, I think they have two or three of their offensive linemen are free agents. And so you know that they have a need there. But they have a mobile quarterback. And some teams that have mobile quarterbacks don't really prioritize the offensive line that much. I think that they see the value there. I'm just kind of throwing that note out there. And then we also know that they're going to have an opening at linebacker and they're also going to need a cornerback. And this is a team that's usually very deep at cornerback. And so when I looked at some of the players that are available, I think Matt Milano, he's already their guy, and I just don't see them letting him walk. So I think if push comes to shove, they might use the tag on him. I'm not really a huge fan of doing that, but I've heard some rumors that that could be in the works. And then I looked at the secondary. You got a lot of guys on the list this year at cornerback and safety. Uh, for whatever reason, whether it makes sense or not, I just looked at, hey, these guys had Josh Norman. Maybe they want a bigger name guy. He's not going to be their number one anyhow. Maybe they go after a guy like Richard Sherman, where it's like, okay, you got a guy that he's got a good pedigree, good career, and you're just saying, okay, maybe we get him for the right deal, and that's what we want is like a big name guy for depth and in the locker room and whatever else. And it was just a name I threw out, but there are a lot of options I think at cornerback this year in free agency.
Well, first I think Milano's not going to be back with Buffalo.
Okay.
This something I'm seeing is not looking good to bring him back for them bringing him back. So I think he's going to be a free agent. I don't think he's going to sign there. I just it trying to read the tea leaves there. It seems to be not going to work out. By the way, the offensive tackle was Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
That's
Mount Becton they called him. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and so if they don't hang on to Matt Milano, really you're talking, maybe Jaron Brown if Tennessee lets him walk. Um, yeah, I think Buffalo because of their needs, and then cornerback. To be honest, they're not looking for a cornerback one. They're really looking for depth. I think Buffalo's really just planning on hitting it in the draft. I don't know that they're going to be too crazy in free agency, man.
Yeah, for cornerback, like looking at the cornerbacks, I mean in the top 100, I would tend to agree with you there that they're probably not going to get a cornerback in free agency. Um, O line,
It's a
I
matter of how much do they want to spend when they're
yeah,
already
and
fairly
just
tight to the cap, you know?
exactly. There's I think they're gonna have to do O line in the draft. They're gonna have to do. I mean, I agree with you on the backup cornerback. Like they're not looking for since they're not looking for really the number one. Just I would just go to the draft. So I would probably go after depending on which Tennessee's probably not going to tag him or uh, Jaron Brown.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good pick there. And in fact, I'm going to add it to my notes, James.
Like just looking at what's available, like offensive line, like there's no way in hell Trent Williams and Mountain Moton, whatever, they're not gonna hit the open market. They're gonna be
Well, so yeah, Moton I don't think is going to happen, but I heard San Francisco told Trent Williams that they're not going to tag him.
really.
Yeah, and that one's interesting. And so, I'll just skip ahead here. I think if Trent Williams is available and you're the Jacksonville Jaguars with like a freaking $1 zillion in cap space and you know you're about to draft a quarterback with your number one pick, I would throw a ton of money at going and getting Trent
Yeah.
Williams, man.
See, I hadn't heard that Williams was or that San Francisco told Williams that he was gonna that they weren't gonna tag him. So
Yeah. Yeah,
that's in,
that's
that's interesting.
yeah,
That
I
should
was shocked, man, because he's like super highly rated, man.
well, yeah, like, and they paid like nothing for him. Like, how are you gonna let him hit the
Yeah.
open market? Or they gotta figure out a deal
Maybe
before then.
yeah, maybe they're thinking his market's not as good as he thinks, and then they're going to lock him in. But I was blown away when I heard that, to be honest.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Yeah. And I mean, I, I mean, where's San Francisco with cap space? I mean, they're really not that bad, man. Like I'm showing them at 16.5 million. You know, I think it's foolish for them to let him walk because they're going to have a gaping hole at left tackle. But that's just what I heard. I just heard that they're not gonna tag him. So
Yeah, see, I have them at 22 million.
okay, so I
So,
did the top 51 on Spotrac, and that might have changed in the last couple days.
oh, if you're doing top, that was cap space for all. For
Okay,
top 51, I have them at 27, almost
gotcha.
28.
Yeah, so then yeah, then some stuff's changed apparently since I put this in here. But yeah, I mean, either way, they're not doing horrible with cap space, and so I don't know. Just to me, I would be hanging on to that guy.
Exactly.
All right, so back to the top of the board here. The next team I had up was the Cincinnati Bengals, and talking about offensive linemen, you know, it's a no-brainer. They got to be going after the offensive line. I
Hmm.
think outside of that, they need cornerback help. And then with a lot of their free agents, it looks like they're going to need help either on the defensive line or at that edge position, somebody that can rush the passer. Um, I saw them as a team that I thought would be a perfect fit to go after Corey Linsley, that center we were talking about earlier, because that's been a weak spot for them. And I know that they had Billy Price, the dude from Ohio State. He had some injury issues a couple years ago, and just sounds like he's not been their guy. And then I don't think he even started this year. I think somebody beat him out of the job. But you know, Corey Linsley, proven, solid, respectable center. You have a young quarterback. Give him a guy he can trust. And then, honestly, on top of that, I think you take another shot at an offensive lineman in free agency, and you still probably look at a guy in the draft too, because you just need to make sure it's rock solid. And the other guy I like when I look at the free agent list is Daryl Williams at offensive tackle. He's been a solid guy, solid bookend kind of guy. I just think that they got to throw a lot at that line, man. Don't let Burrow get hurt again. Like those quarterbacks, you know,
Yeah.
they start seeing ghosts and stuff, man. It's not good.
Yeah, this is why letting Trent Williams hit the open market is very dangerous for San Francisco.
Yeah.
You have Jacksonville, who has a lot of cap space, who needs
Oh, yeah.
offensive line. You have Cincinnati, who has a decent amount of cap space and needs offensive line. It's going to be a bidding war between the two.
Yeah. And
If
Miami's in that boat. They
Miami's
could
in that
use
boat,
offensive
yeah.
line help, and they got a lot of cap space. Yep.
So it's like it's going to be a huge bidding war between the two of them. I could see. I'm going to say Williams is Cincinnati's going to win out on Williams
On Darrell Williams.
on Trent Williams.
Oh, oh, yeah. Um, yeah, that could happen, man. I'm trying to think of who their left tackle is. If they like him enough that they would make that move, because I could see them going after
Well, I
Darrell Williams, and then they just kind of, whichever guy is going to be on the right side. But
yeah,
um,
I don't give a shit who their left tackle is.
yeah, if you could get
Their
Trent Williams, you
offensive
get
line
him.
last
Yeah,
year sucked. Their
yeah,
offensive line is the sole reason that Burrow got hurt last year. You need to fortify that offensive line, and what
yeah.
better way than to put one, if not the best, one of the best offensive tackles ever to play the game on the left side.
Yeah, and that's like you said, it was so bad. You need interior and outside help. You got to get a tackle, and you got to either get a center or a guard because
Hmm.
they need a lot of help, man. So
As,
really,
as as far as for center, like they could go after one of like the lower tier guys, like not necessarily. Like I don't think they'd go after Lindsley because they have other needs. Cincinnati does that.
yeah.
I wouldn't
So if
want to spend too
yeah,
much of that cap space they have on their offensive line.
yeah. So if
Like
David
they could,
Andrews walks from the Patriots, maybe you go
yeah,
him. Austin Reeder, however you say his name. I heard Kansas City's going to be trying to get him back, and so I'm kind of like crossing him off my list for now. But yeah, I think it depends. Like if you're going to spend big on a tackle, then maybe you don't spend as much on a center. But if you're not going to get Trent Williams and you go with a combination of like Lindsley and Darrell Williams, I think that's like par for you're getting two solid guys. But neither one of them's Trent Williams caliber,
yeah.
obviously.
And then for I could see them going after like a Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, I was going to say that, William Jackson was, I think, their top cornerback last year. I could see them at least giving serious thought to tagging him. But no, Patrick Peterson, that's an interesting one because, yeah, this is a team that's had so many problems locking down guys in the secondary that, yeah, Peterson's proven, even though he's in that decline phase of his career now, he's still got a lot of good football left in him. He'd be a solid pick for the Bengals, man.
Hmm.
All right, so moving on. Next up, I got the Cleveland Browns, and they're pretty good with cap space. I got them at 25.7. You probably got them a little bit higher. And when I looked at some of their needs, I think they need help in the secondary. I think they need help off the edge, somebody to complement Myles Garrett. And I think they need help at linebacker. I think we saw last year they do have pieces on every level. They just don't have a lot of depth. And, I think their offense is pretty solid. I'd be focusing on the defense if I was them. You just mentioned Patrick Peterson. Could he be in play for them? I penciled in Jason Verrett because, they have a QB1. Is Peterson going to come in and accept a QB2 role? Probably not. But Verrett might, and so, and then there's a ton of edge guys. So it's kind of just like pick your poison. Who do you think is going to give you the best compliment?
Yeah. So looking at them for cornerbacks, like I don't know. It's hard to say like who for the cornerbacks who's actually going to be willing to go there if they're going to actually be available. Like Shaq Griffin, I find it hard to believe that Seattle's going to let Shaq Griffin go.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. yeah. And so when I mentioned Jason Verrett, it's I specifically mentioned him because it just seems like the team is not enamored by him. He's not a true number one. San
Yeah.
Francisco's looking for more, and that's where I thought he could be a good piece in Cleveland because he's going in is the number two, and I think he knows that nobody's going to give him a look as a number one, and so if that's the case that's probably a good landing spot for him. They were a playoff team. He has value there, but there's other options too. Like Mike Hilton from Pittsburgh. It looks like he's going to be gone because of their cap situation. I kind of penciled him in as maybe going to Jacksonville, but I could see him maybe getting a look from Cleveland. They know him well, having played him in the division, and so just a thought.
Yeah. I would say I would say their number one target, and it's weird, but I would say Dupree.
Bud Dupree is the edge guy.
Yeah.
Oh
Like
man,
I
I'd
think
I'd love to see Bud Dupree on that line. Yeah,
yeah, I think that's going to be their number one target there. Like I mean, they're hot and heavy into JJ Watt, and like it was like rumored that like that's one of the like the final two teams,
yeah,
and but I don't see Pittsburgh tagging Dupree, and I could see Cleveland going hard after him, which that would be a ridiculous line.
yeah. And I tell you, I wonder what his market's going to be after having gotten hurt. And
Hmm.
I have heard some people kind of say that he's more valuable to Pittsburgh than he is to anybody else because he fits what they do on defense, and there's a lot of talent around him. And he might not fit into a scheme somewhere else. And I don't know. He looks good to me. I'd take a shot at him. Um, would Cleveland pay him big money because the NFL list has him ranked at number 12? Man, that's pretty big. That it seems like he's in for a payday. And I kind of thought, like looking at Cleveland, if they're going elsewhere on the edge, like I looked down on the list and I thought, man, how sweet would it be if they ended up getting Melvin Ingram? If he doesn't stay with the Chargers, which it sounds like he could be on his way out, I thought he'd be a great guy to pair with Miles Garrett. But there's a lot of options. Honestly, there's a lot of edge guys this year. Justin Houston, like I mean, there's a ton of guys on this list, man. And there's guys anywhere you want them. There's top tier guys that you're going to pay big money for, and then there's lower tier guys that are still probably high performing edge guys that you maybe don't have to break the bank for.
Yeah, and like I could also see like I just we just talked about Buffalo and how I don't think Milano's coming back. I mean, they could go after a Milano too.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they need linebacker help for sure. I think that'd be, like I said, I'm not like totally sold on Matt Milano, but yeah, you know, I mean, my linebacker, if Tampa Bay's stupid enough to let him walk, is Levante David. I think you go just freaking screeching full blast to get that guy, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, see, I don't see Tampa Bay letting David walk.
I don't either. I just wonder how they're going to keep all three of those big name guys, Godwin, Shaq Barrett, and Levante David. I think and I know they got cap space, but I also know they got a lot of holes too. Gronk's a free agent also. I mean, it's just I just don't think they're going to be able to hang on to all three of those guys, man.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
All right, so let's see. Next up, I got the Denver Broncos, and I'm showing them having a pretty healthy 47.7 million in cap space. Hey, that number is obviously flexible depending on what source you're looking at. And this is one when you look at your needs, um, it's I think it's more debatable for this team. A lot of people are saying, hey, they got a need at quarterback because of Drew Lock and maybe he's not their guy. My opinion, their top need is offensive line help. And then I think on defense, they need help at linebacker, is basically how I've prioritized it. And last year they went out, they got Graham Glasgow, former Lion. I think he was a good pickup for them on the offensive line. I think if you really want to help your quarterback, go out and get another guy. I'm just not sure when I see the guys available that anybody really fits with what they need. I think that they're a team that's probably going to go and find an offensive lineman in the draft, but you never know. Maybe they go after one of these centers. Maybe they go after, Darrell Williams or who knows. And but for me, I thought the no-brainer move was that they got a lockdown safety, Justin Simmons. He's slated to be a free agent. I
Oh,
don't
no,
think they
no.
let him walk.
They tagged him. They tagged him.
Oh, they did tag him. Okay, well
Yeah.
then,
It
hey,
was like a couple hours ago, I believe, the news came out. That's where I was. I was looking at the list, and you had him, or the list you had, and
yeah,
you had him somewhere else. But he was tagged. When did it come out? I was just reading it before we started.
okay. So, um, here's one that I don't I honestly I don't think it makes sense, but I'm just gonna say it just to talk it out. Is that you had mentioned earlier, however many weeks or month ago or whatever, that they were in the hunt for Stafford, and they wanted a veteran guy, and that way Locke could develop for a year or two behind a guy, and they could figure out if he's the quarterback of the future. I don't like this personally, but would they take a look at Ryan Fitzpatrick and say, hey, listen, we're going to let you come in and give you a shot to start. And, if they're not totally sold on Locke, Fitzy gets the start for the year, and it gives Locke time to learn from a very smart veteran quarterback. And then maybe he steps up and next year's his year to get that job.
So I partially agree with you. I don't think it's a Fitzpatrick though.
No, no. I would like to see honestly, I would like to see Fitzpatrick go to the Patriots, man. I think he's smart enough to play in that offense, and I don't know. I something about that just to me, I'm like, just get him there, man. Get him on a good team with a good coach, and like. But who are you thinking?
Alex Smith.
I just wonder, can Alex Smith beat out Drew Lock?
I think he can. I think this is going to be. I don't think Drew Lock is going to be there.
Okay.
Um,
I
I
do like I
think
do like that idea though. I'm going to pencil him in.
I think they. I heard a lot of stuff, a lot of quotes from the new GM. I can't think of his name, Peyton or Patton or whatever. Where he's not so like he's really not sold on Drew Lock, like really not sold.
Okay.
And as you know, Elway kind of gave up the whatchamacallit, the reins for personnel to Patton or Peyton or whatever when
Hmm.
he came in, and I don't think Drew Lock is long to be in the NFL.
He, I mean, we talked about it earlier in the year. He has a very clear lack of maturity. And, if you're going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, you got to grow up, man. Like, I don't know, just my opinion. We've seen him on the sidelines doing like weird, stupid things and gestures, and it's like, it just doesn't fly. Not to me. So,
Yeah, as far as like the other available guys, like I mean, it's hard to say with them because like there's not that much. Like they're gonna be drafting. They're probably gonna trade their pick, and I I'm having problems with it because like I think
yeah, yeah.
they could go out and sign Alex Smith to be the starter. But I think they could be trading their pick to get more picks,
Hmm.
like as some sort of like weird 3-team deal that gets Deshaun Watson to Miami. I'm just making shit up on that one. I'm not actually
Yeah,
saying that,
yeah.
but and then they're going to go out in the draft, or they could be trying to move forward in the draft to get one of these guys, which is iffy. Uh,
Yep.
but either way, they're going to need a veteran for for a couple of years because you're like the guys besides like Lawrence and Trey Lance. I don't think any of the other three that are going to go in the first round, possibly in the top 10, are ready to start right now.
Hmm.
So I think they need some time to get acclimated, and they need that veteran presence. Plus, like look at what Alex Smith did to you had Kaepernick. Look what he did with Kaepernick in San Francisco. Look what his tutelage of
Yeah,
Mahomes. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
he's that guy. He's a slightly better Fitzpatrick.
I got you. I like it. I'll pencil him in there as an option. Okay, so the next team I got on the list here is the Houston Texans. And this team we know is in disarray right now with everything going on with Watson and having just lost Watt. And, they're just DeAndre Hopkins last year, all sorts of stuff. And so basically, I'm showing, pretty good on cap space, over 30 million. The needs, at least the way I looked at it, is wide receiver, especially if you want to keep Watson there and keep him happy. You need an edge guy because you just lost Watt. And then they need some defensive back help, whether it's cornerback or safety or both. That defense needs some pieces. And when I looked at this, here's the thing, man. We talked last week and we thought, they got to tag Fuller. This is another guy. I read an article on this week where they have said they will not tag Will Fuller. And if you're going to let that guy go, who else are you going to get at wide receiver? And so I started kind of just going through the list here, and it's one of these weird situations. I don't think that they're going to get Allen Robinson. I I don't think they're going to get Godwin. I don't think they're going to get Galladay. And then if they don't go after Will Fuller, you're going so far down on that list. You got the next guys. Curtis Samuel, is he really a fit for that offense? Not as a number one, I don't think. Juju Smith-Schuster, could he be their number one? Maybe, but he's been kind of
Juju
underwhelming.
Smith-Schuster's not a number one
Yeah,
receiver.
he's
Just
been kind of
put that thought
underwhelming.
there.
And then it's like after that, you're talking Corey Davis, which it's like none of these guys are going to make Deshaun Watson happy, man. And so I put Corey Davis in there because I just don't see them going after or being able to get any of those bigger name guys. And so it's just, I think to me, no matter what they do, it's going to be a letdown for them, to be honest. And so then
Um,
beyond wide receiver, I penciled in Yannick Ngakoue on the edge. I just kind of figured, they're a team that would take a crack at a guy like that. I don't know that they're going to break the bank for any of these other edge guys. Having just gotten rid of Watt, I don't really see them going after Barrett if Tampa Bay lets him go. I don't really see them going after Bud Dupree. There are some other guys on the list. Obviously, they're not going to retread Jadeveon Clowney. There's Carl Lawson. I think he stays in Cincinnati. Trey Hendrickson, he's an intriguing one out of New Orleans. I like that guy a lot. I think he's flying under the radar. I don't know. It just whatever Houston does, I just feel like they're going to mess it up, to be honest.
I'm going to say something controversial.
Yeah, yeah. Let me hear it, man.
Not one of these players in the top 100 will be on Houston's list of targets.
Because they don't want to go to Houston, or because Houston's just going to go in a different direction.
So, because of the fact that this organization is in ridiculous disarray, because of the fact that Watson is not going to play another game for Houston, and a little known fact is their extra cap space can be carried over.
Oh, okay.
So that's why not every team has the same amount of cap space available.
Yeah.
Or not cap space available, salary cap. So there's carryover provisions and stuff like that. This year is going to be a throwaway year for Houston.
And then, yeah, okay. So if they, yeah, they bail on Watson, they tank it next year, they make a big splash, they get their quarterback, they try and get back in the game, is what you're saying.
Yeah, my question is I'm wondering if they have a pick next year in the first round.
Oh, I gotta believe next year they're back in the first round. I thought, well, maybe not, maybe not. All right, so while you're looking that up, I'll move on to our next team on the list, which is the Indianapolis Colts. You know, these guys, even after the Wentz trade and everything they've been doing, they're still sitting pretty with cap space. I show them just over 50 million. The big needs, as far as I can see, they need a wide receiver, they need an edge guy, and they need defensive back help. This is a team, when I looked at the wide receivers available, I don't think Godwin's really going to be available. I think Allen Robinson goes somewhere else. I thought, okay, if Will Fuller's going to hit the market, get his ass to Indy. I think he's the perfect kind of wide receiver for what Wentz likes to do with that offense, and he'd be a good fit there, my opinion. And then looking at the edge, I actually had Bud Dupree penciled in here for these guys, thinking like you were talking about before with J.J. Watt. I thought, oh, hey, you get Bud Dupree in there, maybe a good fit, him and DeForest Buckner. And then at defensive back, that's one I didn't go too far on because, we talked about it a little bit earlier. There's kind of like a fair amount of guys. None of them are really true number ones, at least not at cornerback. But then if you look at defensive back, you have plenty of options. You got Desmond King. He can do a little bit of safety. He can do a little bit of cornerback. And then if you look at the safeties, Justin Simmons locked down. Marcus May for the Jets. I think there's a chance that he gets locked down. Then you got John Johnson from the Rams. I think, Indy would love to go after a guy like him. There's Marcus Williams from the Saints. I know the Saints want to keep him. I don't see how they're going to do it. I think Indy would love to go after him. There's plenty of options there, man. I think that, and they got the cap space. So I think that whichever guy they want, they're probably going to get him.
Yeah, so I agree with you. For the most part, I agree with you that pretty much whoever they want, they're going to get them. Um, I could see. I agree with you. Bud Dupree is a potential target of theirs. I just think Cleveland's gonna something about
Well, you're
it tells
picking
me.
off a rival, man. Yeah, it's like a double bonus because not only is he not going back there, he's coming to you.
Yeah, and I like looking at the edge guys that might be available. I say Dupree might be a target for Indy, and they're a long shot to get him. I agree with you. Cornerbacks, like I don't see there as a true number one. What I could see is if Chicago doesn't tag Robinson, I could see Indy going hard after him.
Oh yeah, yeah. If he's just in the open market, for sure.
Yeah, as far as trading for him, I don't think they would trade for
No,
him.
no, no. I don't think
But
they trade for him. No way.
but if he's on the open market, I could see him as being their one of their number one targets.
Yeah, and that's where I put in Will Fuller because if he's not getting the tag, he's one of those very quick, stretch the field wide receivers. I just thought that would be a good fit for how Wentz likes to throw the ball. And, I know obviously last year he didn't throw the ball well, but, if he gets back with Frank Reich and gets back to form, that could be a good piece for him. But yeah, I would love to see them get Allen Robinson. I just, yeah, I agree with you. I don't see them pulling a trade to make it happen.
Exactly.
They're they're
Yeah.
they're in too good of a position to sacrifice any of their draft capital, man. It's just I just don't think it makes sense. All right, so let's see. Next up, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we talked about them a little bit going after Trent Williams. They've got like by far and away the most cap space, and I had them penciled in at cornerback for Mike Hilton also. I know they need defensive back help, but the one that I had on here is that they need a quarterback, and Uh, all signs are pointing towards them drafting Trevor Lawrence. But when I looked at the free agents available, I thought, you know what would be smart for them to do? Go out and get a guy like Andy Dalton, who's a freaking brainiac quarterback, and bring him in to be the veteran to help teach Trevor Lawrence. And I'm not saying start by any means. I think Trevor Lawrence should start on day one. But I'm just thinking it would be very smart for him to have a guy like Andy Dalton holding the clipboard, helping him as he's getting in there and learning the ropes. And it's like, he's one of those guys. He had like one of the highest Wonderlic scores. He has a lot of playing experience. I think he's a premium backup quarterback at this point. And if you're going to draft a guy, I think pairing him with a veteran like Dalton is a smart way to go.
Right idea, wrong quarterback.
Okay.
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, okay. And so I guess, James, my only thing with Fitzpatrick is that I'm holding out hope he's going to start somewhere. That's all. That's the only reason I put in Dalton instead of Fitz.
Yeah, I don't think Fitzpatrick is going to start anywhere.
For me, it's just wishful thinking, I guess, because he has had some magic when he started, but he's, over the long haul, yeah, he's faltered as a starter.
Yeah, and another one. I mean, maybe Dalton. I could see Dalton as possibly a second option, but I think they're gonna try to get Fitzpatrick because I think Fitzpatrick. I mean, shit. He went to an Ivy League school.
Yep.
He's incredibly smart. People keep paying him to be their backup quarterback because of what he he does with those quarterbacks. It's just like Alex Smith. That's another one. I agree with you on the idea. I just don't think Dalton
Is the right guy.
is the
And
right guy.
honestly, last year there was a big rumor that Dalton could go to the Patriots. And, maybe this is the year that they go and get him and they say, okay, come on in, man. Now that you're just wide open and we had our disaster with Cam Newton, who knows? Dalton might get that second chance here to start in this league. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. Well, let's move it on then. The next team we got is the Kansas City Chiefs. They're obviously in a tough cap spot. I got them at almost 20 million over the cap. We talked about, could Eric Fisher be a cap casualty? I've heard that they're looking at restructuring a number of guys to keep the offensive line intact. And that includes the center, Austin Reeder, however you say his name. But outside of the offensive line, if they hang on to all those guys, they're getting Duvernay Tardif back. It sounds like from his opt out. I think their highest priority then is linebacker, and after that I'd say cornerback. Linebacker I think's thin this year. There's not a lot of options, so I think they're going to the draft there. I did see some people say that they might go after Matt Milano. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. We'll see. I don't think the Levante David thing's realistic for them, whether Tampa Bay lets him go or not. Cap wise, I just don't see them being able to get a guy like him. And then at cornerback, I think it's one of these things. Like we talked about over and over again tonight. You're not going to get a true number one in free agency, but you can have your pick of the litter for a guy that could be a number two, like a solid number two. And so, they're probably going to do something there just to get somebody on that roster.
I agree with you. I think they're the biggest needs in Kansas City. I would say would be depth on the offensive line, not necessarily starters, but depth.
Yeah, and so you're probably not looking at the top 101, but you're looking for somebody. Yeah,
exactly. For linebacker, cornerback, like I think they're going to try to build through the draft. I think they're going to spend their money on trying to get their money. They're going to restructure and get under the cap, and then spend money on just getting depth on the offensive line.
Gotcha.
Because if you look at the team before, hypothetically, they keep that offensive line intact, and they get Tardif Dudith or whatever
Yeah, yeah.
his name is back. That offensive line was solid at the beginning of the year, and then people started getting hurt.
Yep. And
It-
honestly, I know I talked about the Buccaneers just blowing them up, but part of it was they had two of their starters out for the Super Bowl. And that's
Two of the
already
starters
without Duvernay Tardif.
they had like four of their starters weren't
Yeah.
their two guards were hurt earlier in the season,
Yep. Eric
and
Fisher tore the Achilles. Yep. I mean,
yeah,
they were decimated. And so, I guess I want to backtrack on my comment, but I still believe strongly in defensive line, but I also believe strongly in having a strong offensive line. I
hmm
think having good trenches goes a long way for both sides of the ball.
exactly.
Okay, so anybody else you see as a target for them, or should we move it on to the next team?
We can move it on. Like I don't see how they could target really anyone in the top
Yeah,
one.
yeah, they're in a tough spot. So the next team I got on the list is the Las Vegas Raiders, and their cap situation's a little bit dicey, but like we talked about, they trade their tackle, that frees up some space. We know that they want to go defense. They need help at every level on defense, defensive line, defensive back, linebacker, and this is one that to me, I think probably isn't gonna work, but it just was intriguing in my own mind earlier. I thought, man, I know Gruden loves his veteran guys. Would he go after frickin' Ndamukong Suh to beef up that defensive line? And I just don't know if he can afford it because Suh, he's been getting paid every year in free agency, man. And so I don't know. I just I put it out there as an option. I think anywhere on defense they're going to be looking.
So first, I'm trying to figure out why your number is so far off from my number I have
Sure.
for the Raiders. Did did they make a they cut somebody recently or something? Like I'm just because you have them as 2 million over. I have them with 10 million in space.
All right. Let's see. Let me get into Spotrac here because I switched. Originally I was using over the cap, and I switched to Spotrac because that's what you had been using. And let's see. I'm just looking at it here. Okay, so yeah, see, I don't know. See, yeah, it's showing 10 million on Spotrac. So whenever I pulled it, it was different. But hey, that's fine, man. That's fine. It's whatever. Or hang on. Did I use a different source? Maybe. Let me just check this. What other source would I have used? I'm just hitting my browser history real quick. So, like not, I guess not looking too crazy at the cap then. We're just talking guys that could fit their openings.
Right, but I would say I agree 100% on Sue. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
I think that he's a prime target for Vegas to go after. That would it would I mean, he's a solid defensive player if he's not being a jackass.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that that's a really good fit.
Yeah, and Gruden loves those veteran guys. And then it defensive back, take your pick. It's the same thing earlier. You're not going to get a number one, but you can get some guys that can be, contributors on your team. And linebacker, sorry, man, you're just like everybody else. You're SOL. You're going to have to draft a guy or hope that one of your guys on the squad steps up because I just don't see enough of them there in free agency. And yeah, James,
Yeah, so
I will update my cap number for next week since I'm like wildly off the mark somehow. Whatever source I used was not right.
well, yeah, like you didn't even use over the cap because over the cap has him with almost 4 million in space.
I know, but these numbers do change every day. But how I'm that far off seems funky. So I
I
will.
mean they extended Sieg, or however you pronounce it.
Mhm.
Let me see. It's like
Well,
I'm
here
looking.
we'll just go live with the numbers. Okay, so anything else on the Raiders?
No.
All right, the next team on here is the Chargers, and I just pulled up over the cap because they list every team together. Over the cap's got the Chargers with 25 million in space, not too bad. I'm looking at them as the three things I think they need: offensive line, linebacker, and tight end. I think they're going to tag Henry because you got the young quarterback. He wants that tight end there. Henry made comments about, maybe alluding to the fact that he's, willing to go wherever and do whatever. And, I don't know. I don't see them letting him go, even though his career has maybe not been everything they wanted it to be. Uh, you know, it's a good fit for what they need. And then offensive line wise, here's the thing, man. I heard that because Herbert's like just mobile enough, that they're really not prioritizing the offensive line going into free agency. And so, what does that mean? I don't know. I think it's foolish. I think that if you have a young freaking gem of a quarterback like him, don't make the mistake Cincinnati made. Get some guys to protect his ass. But we'll see what happens, man. So I didn't even put anybody in there other than Hunter Henry for these guys.
Yeah. So for the Chargers, I think I agree with you on Hunter Henry. I think while they're not going to tag him, uh, what's his face?
You're
Melvin
thinking
Gordon.
Melvin Ingram?
No, no, Melvin. Yeah, Melvin Ingram.
Yeah,
I was gonna say. I
I
was saying.
think,
I start saying, thinking Ingram, looking at Ingram on the list, and then saying Melvin Gordon.
yeah, I think, they should hang on to him. It's weird that we're not hearing more about them coming together and working out a deal. But, he's had a great freaking run with the Chargers, man. Like you let him go now, I don't know, dude. It's just a sad ending for a good career player, in my opinion. But it
Mhm.
happens. I mean, that's the business side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, I got the Miami Dolphins, and looking at over the cap, the Dolphins are at just under 23 million in space, and here's the thing. Okay,
36 on Spotrac.
yeah, so that they're far apart. They're far apart, and they change every day, which is why these lists are jacked up. So the number I had in my spreadsheet was 37.2. So I don't, it's all messed up here, but either way. They need help on the offensive line. They need a linebacker, which maybe they don't really need a linebacker. If they let Van Noy go, maybe they feel comfortable with the young guys they got. And then, they need help at wide receiver. They got Devontae Parker, but I think they need, some complementary receiving help. Um, this is one where I really didn't see a lot of free agents that were going to fit the bill necessarily. You could throw wide receiver names at it for sure, but the one name here that I maybe this is just me wanting the guy to go there is Aaron Jones at running back. Even though I don't have him listed as a big need, they really don't have a true running back. They rotated guys last year, and kind of all of them were effective in their time, and so it wasn't really a big deal. But I think if you're sticking with Tua, especially, go out, get an offensive lineman, and go out and make a play for Aaron Jones because now you've got a solid running back to take pressure off your young quarterback as he develops and gets his feet under him. And I just think that that would be a very good piece for that offense, my opinion.
Okay. There's a lot of smoke with Aaron Jones going to Miami.
Oh,
There's
no
been
kidding. I didn't
lot,
even hear
a
that.
lot of talk. Like that's like
Okay.
I've been hearing that for like a week and a half that Aaron Jones is going to end up in Miami.
Well, that makes me feel good because great minds think alike sometimes, or whoever's minds these are. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah,
So outside of Aaron Jones, I think they tried to do offensive line through the draft. I mean, they have like 700 draft picks this year. Like,
yep,
there's plenty
yep.
of offensive linemen they can. I kind of could see them going after Will Fuller.
Eh, do you think they would do that with Devontae Parker stepping up as their number one? See,
Yeah, because I don't think Will Fuller is a number one.
okay.
I
Why?
think,
I think it's questionable. I think that he thinks he's gonna be a number one in free agency, but sometimes you don't always get what you want. I kind of looked at them as, uh, I saw an article with linking them with T.Y. Hilton. I thought, okay, that'd be not maybe not bad. I kind of thought maybe Corey Davis because he's not really a number one, and then you got, I guess I had it in my head as Devontae Parker's their one, and I had Will Fuller in that category of he's probably going to go somewhere and be a one. But I think that'd be a sweet pick for them, to be honest. I like that.
yeah. And another thing, they could potentially in the first round. There's going to be one of those wide receivers are going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of wide receivers
I'm
this
I'm
year.
drawing a fucking blank on the names. Smith or
Well, I know high up, you got Jamar Chase and you got
Jamar
Devonta
Chase,
Smith
yeah,
and yeah.
Devonta, and the other guy from Alabama.
Hmm.
Like you're gonna have a lot of top tier, but I could see if the Jets go quarterback, they go O line. If the Jets go O line, they go wide receiver
Okay.
in the draft. Which we should do a draft preview show.
Hey, why the all right, so next week we're doing the NFC. And then if you want to do draft preview, we could do it after that. Yeah, I figured we'd get to the draft preview at some point because we've got until like the end of April. But
Yeah.
you know, I,
Like I,
I'm,
I mean,
I,
eventually down the line, like I need more than like a week or two
yeah,
to
it,
to work on it.
yeah,
But
and hey, we can do one where it's just it's like an early look, and it's like, hey, we know we're a ways away. Here's a few things to keep an eye on, and as we get closer, we'll do like a full blown deal where we really dig deep and kind of get nitty gritty on it.
yeah, let me take a look at something else on them because I think I want there's another possible another position they need that I was thinking and I didn't note it and that annoys me. Oh well, I'll come back to it.
Yeah,
We
keep it moving.
move
All
on
right,
to
so yeah, so next up we got the New England Patriots, and basically I locked them in hanging onto that guard, Joe Tooney, however you say his name. Aside from that, we know they need a quarterback, and my opinion, they need a wide receiver because like they just never seem to get like a homegrown guy. They're not really good at drafting guys. Edelman was like an exception to that rule, but you can argue that he's not really a one, at least not anymore. And then I think they need help on the defensive line, and they've got a lot of money, so they could do a lot of things. At quarterback, I kind of thought, hey, it'd be interesting. Maybe would they go back after Jacoby Brissett because, they had him a few years back, and Belichick seemed to be kind of high on him. I thought maybe they take a look at him. I don't know if he's starter worthy. Maybe in that system he could be starter worthy. But they could go a lot of different ways. And the thing is, the wide receiver route, you're kind of getting into it again. Like, can they really get one of these true number one guys at wide receiver? I don't think so, and so I don't think that they're going to hit it in free agency, but you never know. And then on the defensive line, it's kind of like the cornerback thing, except better. I think there's a lot of edge guys that they could nail. There's a lot of solid defensive ends, defensive tackles. Um, they could do whatever they want, man, to be honest. And I mean, I'm just looking at defensive tackles. You got Dalvin Tomlinson, you got Daquan Jones, Larry Ogunjobi. Maybe these guys aren't freaking studs, but they're solid starters. And even Tyson Alualu, he had a pretty good year with Pittsburgh. And then if they want to go after some of those edge guys, they got the money, man. They definitely got the money to do it. So,
Yeah, I t- I struggled with New England. Like it's they need so much shit that
yeah.
I didn't know where to go with it.
Yeah, they do need a lot of everything. Yeah, so just kind of
It's
like
like,
take a guy at every position group.
yeah, so it's like, so quarterback, I think they're either going to try to adjust the quarterback in the draft, or they're gonna get like a Garoppolo, or like one of those leftovers from one of these big trades that's coming up. Um, hmm.
They lock down the guard, they wait on the
Yeah.
quarterback, and they throw a dart on the defensive line because there's options. I
I
penciled
think
it
their
I
number one
penciled him in
target's
for
going to be
Dalvin Tomlinson.
one of these wide receivers. I think like that's the most logical for
Yeah, and
me.
so like
That
if I'm looking at wide receiver, Belichick historically has gone for the smaller, kind of shiftier guys. If I'm looking at this list, I really don't know. I mean, I I don't like any of these guys in New England. Maybe Curtis Samuel because he's a little bit of a gadget guy, but that's really not it's not the same. I mean, he's more of a unique kind of, Swiss Army knife kind of a guy. It's tough. I don't know. Who would
yeah,
they go
it's
after, man? Maybe Corey Davis because he's kind of like Corey Davis is kind of developing into like a fairly good all-around receiver, just not a true number one. Marvin
yeah.
Jones, he wants to go to a contender. Would he go there? Maybe, you
I
know.
don't see them as a contender. Another guy I could see them going after if is John Smith.
I like that. Actually, I like that a lot. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, like I
Yeah,
think
they they
I
need
like
they need a tight end, man. They need a tight end. Yeah.
yeah. I think I like your Corey Davis and New England going after Corey Davis as well. Like outside of that, I think a lot of these positions they're going to try to build through the draft. Like yeah, I could see them trying to go after a Marvin Jones. Will Marvin Jones go there? No, because they're really not a contender right now. Um, I could see them taking a run at some of these wide receivers, but I don't know if these wide receivers will go there because who's going to be throwing the quarterback?
Yeah, it's risky. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so next up we got the New York Jets. They've got a ton of cap space. I'm showing them on over the cap at 77 million. And basically, when I look at their needs, I put quarterback up there because nobody seems to think Sam Darnold's going to be their guy. We'll see if that happens or not. I put edge, whether it's defensive line or a rushing linebacker or whatever. Salah's going to be changing things on that defense. And then I've got defensive back because they've got some guys in the secondary that are free agents. I think they hang on to Marcus May at safety, my opinion, whether they use the tag on him or not, and so that would alleviate that spot. Quarterback, I think if they're doing anything, they're doing it in the draft. And then I looked at edge, and I spent a lot of time looking at edge. I think their dream scenario is that Shaq Barrett gets rocked free from Tampa Bay, and they drop some dough on that guy because you got a defensive-minded head coach. Why not spend a little bit of money bringing him in, a solid dude on the defensive line? San Francisco, they were stacked on the defensive line when Saleh was there, and so I don't know. I put him in there. I don't know that Tampa Bay is going to let him go. It just like I said, I don't think they're going to be able to hang on to all their guys. So, you know, if they do, the Jets would gladly get him.
Okay, so a couple things. One, um, so Richard Sherman, who played with Saleh in San Francisco,
Yep.
when the Watson news of him wanting a trade started happening and it was started coming out, he was like selling Saleh
That's true. Yeah.
as a coach. Another one another one that could be an option is Verrett. I mean, they both played for Saleh in San Francisco.
Yep, that's true. Yep, they
But
got the connection.
I would say Sherman's more likely. I could also see a player like Yannick Ngakoue
Okay.
going there.
I mean, with how much cap space they have, I could see them throwing a couple darts on the defensive line, to be honest. And I would hope they would do it because you want your new head coach to have some pieces to play with.
Yeah. Outside of that, quarterback, yeah, it's either going to be draft or it's going to be a trade scenario.
Yeah.
None of these, like really, the quarterbacks outside of Prescott, who is likely to stay in Dallas, and Jameis Winston. Outside of those two, none of them are really potential starters in the NFL.
No, no. I mean, I think you're why like if you're comparing like Mitch Trubisky to Sam Darnold, it's like you probably just roll the dice with Darnold for one more year, you know?
Exactly.
And if it sucks, you're drafting the guy next year. I don't know.
Yeah. I also think the Jets need to shore up their running back.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Uh, they do need help at running back, and there's some guys out there. Marlon Mack, you know, Chris Carson. I got Chris Carson up next. I would love to see him go to Pittsburgh. But yeah, you know, I mean, I guess Kenyon Drake is a potential free agent this year. I
No,
have a hard time believing Arizona's going to let him go after they traded for him the other year, but maybe, you know,
so here's the thing about it. I am guaranteeing that Kenyon Drake will not be a Cardinal next year.
guaranteeing.
Yes.
Okay.
And hear me out. So I told you the GM of the Cardinals was on one of the sports talk radio shows I listened to, and he was asked a direct question on getting an extension with Kenyon Drake,
Yeah.
right? And he answered it how Edmonds is a solid running back and did not even talk about Drake.
Well, dude, I was telling you all year that I would love it if they gave Edmonds the shot to be the workhorse. I mean, the dude, every time he plays, he just looks so good.
Yeah. So I don't I do not see Kenyon Drake being back um,
So you think he
with
could be a Jet, is what you're telling me.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on the Jets or moving on?
I how many free agents do you want me to pick for them?
Well, as many as you want, man. I don't know. Okay,
No,
so yeah, yeah. So all right, next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and looking at their cap situation, they're at 3.6 million on over the cap, and
I have a little
basically,
higher. I have them at 5, but I mean,
yeah,
no, I have them at almost 8 million,
okay,
which makes sense because they
Yeah,
were
the five they saved from Ben. You
they
know,
saved
yeah.
15.
Oh, gotcha,
I
gotcha.
I
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
they saved 15 million from Ben, not 5.
Okay. So, yeah. Either way, they got some cap space. It's not a ton. I think they need offensive line help. It looks like they're going to let Villanueva go. I think, like you were calling for it all year, and I got on board at the end of the year, is they got to get a running back. And then a lot of people are saying they really need to get a quarterback, whether it's just a backup or they take a shot on a guy to be the next guy because, the clock's ticking on Big Ben. Um, I don't know that quarterback's a priority in free agency. I think that my opinion is go out and get the running back. And I think Chris Carson fits the mold of what Pittsburgh wants to do. He's a hard-nosed, sort of old school kind of pound 'em running back. And to me, that's just a match made in heaven. And so I would go and get him if Seattle lets him go, which it's looking like, I don't know, man. He's always kind of been in the doghouse with Pete Carroll. So, if he's back, I'd be shocked, but you never know. But, James Conner, I was hopeful that he would bounce back and get it done this year, and it just didn't happen. And so Carson's my top guy for Pittsburgh, and I didn't really pencil anybody else in there for him, but they do need help in some other spots. It's just where can they spend the money and who's the top priority?
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with you on Carson. Um, I think he's he'd be a great fit there. Outside of Carson, if the Lions do not tag Galladay,
I just think Pittsburgh, they're so good at finding wide receivers, you know? Like, would they spend a lot of money on a guy in free agency? Dude, it's
that's
like they strike gold every year in the draft, man. They're always finding wide receivers.
that is very true. Like as I was saying it, I was disagreeing with myself type of thing.
Yeah, it's like you had it in your head, like, hey, it'd be cool, but then it's like, yeah, but they don't really need it?
Yeah. I mean have they just drafted what's his face last year. They had Robinson. I mean they're pretty set at receiver
Yeah.
there anyways, even with Schuster, even without Schuster. Um Offensive line wise, I don't
So,
know. Like
so
it's
the
difficult because they don't have much space.
Yeah, and so the guy I thought would be Kelvin Beachum, if anything, because he's towards the bottom of the top 101. But I think he started all 16 games in Arizona last year. Like I think he's one of these guys where he is definitely starter quality, uh, but he might not get big kind of pay, and so maybe that's a guy that the Steelers look at.
Yeah, I think I think they might just go after Carson and call it a day, and that's going to be their try to
Yeah.
because like they can't afford much.
No, no. And just get Carson on a couple mil deal, let him ground and pound, and yeah, there you go, man. All right, so last but not least, we got the Tennessee Titans, and looking at over the cap, the Titans are sitting at about 6.5 million in space. I'm showing them as a couple needs, mainly on the defensive side. I think they need help on the edge. I think they could use another linebacker because they've got one that's a free agent, and I think that with Corey Davis likely out of there, they could use help at wide receiver behind AJ Brown. Um, when I thought of some names, this is one that I would love to hang on to this guy as a Lions fan, but I don't think we're gonna. Romeo Aquara is going to be floating out there somewhere. I could see a team like Tennessee maybe being savvy and saying we can get him on a value deal, maybe pay a little bit more than Detroit could do to keep him. At wide receiver, I thought maybe Sammy Watkins, like that could be a really good number two behind A.J. Brown. Uh, But I think they could go in a lot of different directions. I just don't see them being able to spend a ton of money because the cap's not there for them.
Yeah, so I think like when I look at them, I would focus on like linebacker or defensive line, like
Yeah,
get
like
like
Eldon Smith maybe.
yeah,
He kind of had a good year in Dallas and sort of faded down the stretch, but he could be a solid guy for them on the defensive line, and maybe they get him at the right price.
yeah, or possibly getting like you said, Aquara. Actually I like that fit with Aquara there.
Yeah, something about that, man. Just like it just when I thought of it, I was like, I don't know. I like putting guys I like with Vrabel. I'm like, oh yeah, Vrabel could get more out of him, and it could be a win-win for those guys.
Yeah, like I don't see any of these guys being of line like maybe yeah like I don't know like with like Brown, they're obviously letting Brown walk. So who David's not going to be available. Milano maybe, but I think he might be too pricey.
Hmm.
KJ Wright, is Seattle really gonna
No
gonna
way.
let
I don't see
go?
them
There's
letting
no
him
way.
go.
No, exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So like they're gonna who Levante David again not going to be available. Who are they going to get at linebacker?
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be in the draft. Their big addition is probably going to be it's going to be like Aquara or if for some reason oh shit what's his
Yeah, it just can't be
for
splashy.
if for some reason because I have him at like 10 million available.
Okay.
If for some I have no clue why this would ever happen, but if Matt Judon
Oh, yeah. I'd like that. Yeah.
was not was somehow let Baltimore somehow let him walk.
I mean, with how Baltimore manages their cap, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him go because, they're a team they're not going to overpay for a guy if they don't have to. And I don't
Yeah,
and I don't know if they have to for him. He's one of those guys where he fits better with them than maybe anywhere else. And so they probably know that his best place is with them, so they kind of have some of the power when they're bargaining with him.
yeah, but like that would be I could see him fitting very well in Vrabel's defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it.
Uh,
Aquara or Judon.
Alrighty.
Those are my two.
Nice. Okay, so that's it for the AFC. I think we covered it pretty well tonight. We'll do the same thing next week on the NFC. I like kind of dreaming about connecting these dots. It's fun. Um, the last thing we got here on the list is the question of the week. And, this is basically just kind of like making it official from what I've been talking about all night is Tampa Bay, man. They got some big name free agents. Wide receiver Chris Godwin, defensive end Shaq Barrett, linebacker Levante David. You want to go further than that, you got Gronkowski, Antonio Brown. You can just keep going. They got so many guys that are out there. But I'm just going to look at the big three, Godwin, Barrett, and Levante David. And my question of the week is how many, if any, will Tampa Bay have on its roster in 2021? And just to shed a little bit of light on it, over the cap is showing them sitting at just under 12 million in space. If you got to franchise tag one of those guys, all that space is gone, man. And so, my opinion, my opinion is that they're going to be able to keep two of them. I think that they might have to tag one of them and come up with a creative way of signing a guy and reworking some other deals. But I think that they're keeping Godwin because they want to keep him for Brady. And then I think, if I'm them, I would keep Levante David. But I've heard they're prioritizing Shaq Barrett over him. I don't see there's any way that they can keep all three of them. So I think it's two tops. And I think they could probably get creative to keep two out of the three, is my opinion.
Again, you're so close to having the correct answer.
Oh, thank you, Oracle James.
So
Tell me
close.
where I got it wrong.
They're going to keep two of them, and it's not going to be Godwin.
Yeah, honestly, I thought that, if I'm them, why would you feel the pressure to keep Godwin? Because you could probably get Antonio Brown back on a cheap deal, and then you can focus on keeping the defense intact. But I've heard a lot that Brady really likes Godwin, and that's the only reason that's the way I went. But I agree with you. If I'm the GM, I'm going defense, and I'm probably hanging on to Antonio Brown on a value deal.
Exactly. I think they're gonna keep Barrett and David. Those guys you can't let hit free agency. Godwin, let him hit free agency. See what he's available for him on the open market, and possibly try to convince him to stay, but they ultimately lose him.
Gotcha. And yeah, he'd be a coveted piece in free agency. And hey, let's see what happens. So okay, anybody who's still watching, hit us up. Let us know what you think about our question of the week. We want your thoughts, and definitely play Name That Stadium. We have a lot of fun with that every week. And just in general, if you liked it, give us the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Let us know how we're doing with some comments. And James, I think it was fun, man. We'll hit the other side next week, and then we'll talk about the draft preview, man. That's coming.
All right, sounds good.
All right, cool, man. I'll catch you later.
Yep, have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut, hut, hike.